I really don't recommend it because you might feel really miserable if you move there. Welcome back to Talking the Travel, guys. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about 5 main reasons why I do not recommend you move to Côte d'Ivoire. So if you've been watching a few of our videos, you already know that we have Côte d'Ivoire and Cameroon at the top of our list of places we want to move to. But today's video is going to be a little bit different because I'm going to share 5 reasons why I would not recommend you move to Côte d'Ivoire and the 5 reasons why I don't want to move to Côte d'Ivoire. Make sure you stay till the end of this video because the last reason is really the deal breaker and it's the main reason why I absolutely think that it's going to make your life miserable if you move to Côte d'Ivoire. All right, so let's get into it. Reason number 1 why I don't recommend you move to Côte d'Ivoire is if you do not intend to learn the language. And by language, I mean French. Côte d'Ivoire is a French-speaking country, just like many countries on the continent. And if you don't speak French, it's not going to be a huge problem for you to start your move and not knowing any French, but I recommend that you start learning. Just like going to Mexico and you would want to learn some Spanish if you don't already. Just like moving to France, you would want to learn some French if you don't already. Same thing for Côte d'Ivoire because most people speak French. I highly recommend you learn to speak French. I personally think it is highly disrespectful for somebody to move to another country, voluntarily move to a country and have no intention to learn the local language. I think that it's very presumptuous for people to assume that other people are going to know English and that other people need to talk to them in English. After all, you're in somebody else's country and you need to adapt to the local culture. And in this case, it is about learning to speak French. So what should you do instead? Just because you don't speak Spanish doesn't mean that you're not going to move to Mexico. Just because you don't speak French yet doesn't mean that you cannot move to Côte d'Ivoire. What you need to do right now is start preparing. Start by using apps, for example, like Duolingo, where you can start learning the basics of, greetings and asking for directions and things like that, just to prepare yourself so that you are more ready once you move or even just visit the country. One of the reasons why we are picking Francophone countries like Cameroon and Côte d'Ivoire is because we actually want our kids to be fluent in French. My husband and I already speak French. French is actually my first language. This is what we speak at home, growing up and all of that. And so for me, it's a little hard to teach my kids French at home here in the US because, everything else is in English. And so I believe that immersion is the fastest and easiest way to learn a language. This is how I grew up learning 4 different languages because I was immersed in that environment. Growing up in Morocco, we spoke French, Spanish, Arabic, and English. So I was fluent in all 4 of these languages by the age of 10, I think. And so I've experienced firsthand how easy it is to learn a new language just by being in a specific culture. So this is what we want for our kids as well. Second reason why I absolutely do not recommend you to move to Côte d'Ivoire is if you are not open-minded. If you are thinking that you can take your American mindset and bring it to the continent, bring it to Côte d'Ivoire or anywhere else, as a matter of fact, then you are mistaken. You are opening yourself to a big disappointment and a big mistake, okay? Côte d'Ivoire is Côte d'Ivoire. It's the way it is. Cameroon is the way it is. The Congo is the way it is. Morocco is the way it is. France is the way it is, with their own culture and norms. So bringing your own culture and norms to the continent and expecting people to adapt to your own norms is a big mistake. Again, it's very presumptuous because you're coming with a colonizing attitude, thinking that your way is the only way, and if it's not your way, then it's not going to work. Well, I can tell you already that this is not going to work, okay? So you have to be open-minded. You have to know that things are going to be different. You have to know that things are done differently, and you're going to have to adapt to the way things are being done. More than likely, things will be slower than they are in the US, and that's specifically when it comes to administration for paperwork things that you have to do. So you'll have to get used to that. At the end of the day, what you have to remember, and that's something that I also have to remind myself, is that do not go in with the intention to change things. This is something that actually applies in relationships as well. This is what I tell my single friends. If you take your boyfriend as is, and if you're okay with him being this way for 20, 30, 50 years together, then it's okay. Go ahead and get married. Because the last thing you want to do is expect for him or her to change and then be disappointed because you had the expectation of either changing them or for them to change over time. Instead, you have to know if you're content with the way things are right now. So same thing when you move anywhere else in the world, don't go with the intention of changing things, but go with the attitude of, okay, I'm okay if things are like this, and I don't have to take it on upon myself to make other people around me change instead of me adapting to the current environment. I hope that makes sense. Let's go into reason number 3 why I would say that Côte d'Ivoire is probably not for you. And this applies to a lot of countries. And actually, if you're in the US, that might also apply to you. If you're coming, let's say, from the north and you're thinking of moving to Houston, for example, and you do not like the heat, then I would say the south is not for you. Just like I would say that Côte d'Ivoire is not for you if you cannot stand the heat, like literally. It is hot. It is really, really hot. It is humid. You're going to be sweating a lot. You might want to have a fan or hand fan with you because it's really hot, and you might not have access to AC everywhere. Because electricity can be expensive, you do not have the same system of AC where, for example, here in the US, you would have central AC in the whole house and then you just leave it on for the whole day and then you don't worry about it. Or you have AC in the car, you have AC in all the businesses, you have AC everywhere you go, right? For example, here in Houston, it is really, really hot and humid in the summer, but you don't have to feel it if you have your own car, if you have your own house or apartment with AC and all of that. So you really only feel it when you're like outside. And if you don't really have to, nobody really stands outside in the heat in Houston. However, in Côte d'Ivoire, it is very common to do that. You just have to get used to it because the offices might not have AC all the time. You might have to stand in line outside of the office. You might have to go to the market, to the open air market. You might have to turn on the air conditioning in one room of your house, but not the whole house. And instead, you might want to just open the windows or just roll down the window when you're in a cab. And you're not going to ask them to put on the AC because that's just not something that a lot of cabs do. Okay, so you just roll down the window and that's it. So if you cannot stand the heat, if hot weather is not for you, then Côte d'Ivoire and many other countries are definitely not for you. So obviously a few things that you can do to help you out in this case is to wear the right type of clothing like cotton, and also having like an electric fan or even like a handheld fan like that. So those are things that can help you out as well. Otherwise, if you're willing to pay extra for AC, by all means, go for it. The fourth reason why I would say that Côte d'Ivoire is not for you is if you're not really a party, high life type of person. Let me explain, because I personally am not necessarily a party type of person because, you know, I've done it in my 20s and I'm not really in the mood to do it now. But this is not really just about the clubs. It's also about all the events that are happening in Côte d'Ivoire, specifically in Abidjan. And I mentioned that as a positive in a previous video where I said that there are a lot of cultural events, business events that are happening. There are always conferences and basically there are always things to do. So if you're an introvert who really doesn't like to interact with people, it might be a little difficult for you because of the pressure to go out and attend some events. Let me explain. I'm an introvert, okay? And I don't really feel the need to be with a lot of people. However, I like to hang out with my friends. I like to go to business events and things like that. So those are not a con for me because I need these things not only for my own sanity, but also for the growth of my business and to network and things like that, right? If you don't really care for human interaction and having a good time with other people, then Abidjan specifically might not be the town for you. It might be a little too fast-paced and overwhelming for you just because there's just so much going on in the city. So this is what this introvert would recommend for you to do, is to find a healthy balance between your refuge and your need to be by yourself and the need to be out there interacting with people. You need to find that balance. This is what all of us introverts have to do. Whether we're in the US or in Côte d'Ivoire, wherever we are, this is something that we have to find just so that we don't let other people drain our energy and so that we don't get overwhelmed, tired, and resentful. So again, make sure you find that happy balance for yourself. Okay, this is the big one. This is the one that is the deal breaker for you if you want to move to Côte d'Ivoire. And the main reason why I highly discourage you to move to Côte d'Ivoire is if you think it's going to be cheap living. Yes, we've all thought, me included, that living on the continent was quote unquote cheap. Okay, I grew up in Morocco, and I would say when you do the exchange with the US dollar, I would say it's pretty cheap to live in Morocco. Okay, so it's a valid thought. However, in a lot of countries where a lot of the goods are imported or where there is a big expat community, prices are ridiculous for a lot of things, specifically for lodging, so apartments if you want to rent or even if you want to buy, but also for education. So international schools, for example, can be extremely expensive if you choose an international school for your kids. If you choose more of a local or a mixed kind of school, then that is more affordable. But if you choose the international school route, you're gonna have to pay sometimes the equivalent of college tuition here. So I've shared a few videos on the cost of living in Côte d'Ivoire. I'm gonna link it up here as well as in the description. But one good resource that you can use to help you out is the website Numbeo, where you can compare the cost of living in your current city and the city where you're planning to move. So for example, Abidjan, and to give you an idea of how much more expensive or cheaper it's going to be for you. Take it with a grain of salt, however, because like I said in previous videos, those numbers might not reflect your family structure or your spending habits. So not only did I look at sites like that and look at what's out there on the internet when it comes to cost of living, what other expats spend, but I also asked somebody there who lives there. So I asked my friend who lives in Côte d'Ivoire to give me her own budget, family monthly budget. And I also went to the store and looked at the prices myself. So those were more realistic numbers. Same thing for Cameroon. I asked a family member to give me an idea of her own monthly budget so that I could have a more accurate number for our own budget. I also wanted to share a quick resource with you. Something that came out this week is this article saying that Senegal and Côte d'Ivoire were the two most expensive countries in Africa. So my recommendation here is something that I've mentioned in another video, and I'm gonna link it up here again and in the description, is for you not to count on a local job, obviously, but for you to have a source of income from here, from the US, from the UK, wherever you're located right now, that can sustain you when you live in Côte d'Ivoire. You want to be able to have an accurate number for your budget, but you also want to have an incoming regular source of income, whether it's passive or something active, like maybe you work remotely or maybe you have your own business. Whatever it is, you want to make sure that you can count on that money to come in every single month. So like I said at the beginning of this video, you are going to be highly disappointed and miserable at the same time if you think that you are going to live the cheap life in Côte d'Ivoire, or if you're intending to come with a small budget or with just savings, because that money is going to run out really, really fast. So I wanted to warn you in advance, that way you don't fall into that trap, but instead you can be better prepared before you make the move. So what can you do now? One thing you can do is go visit. If you want to go visit but you don't know where to start, you can check the link in the description as well as the link right here. This is a trip that I'm organizing with the Embassy of Côte d'Ivoire in DC to go to Côte d'Ivoire in November. So this is your chance to go on an organized tour where everything's included and where you can actually use this trip as a scouting trip to get a chance to see the cost of living, how things are like over there, and if you can see yourself, this is always what I recommend, so you can see yourself living there. So there you have it. I've given you 5 reasons not to move, but I hope you paid attention because I also gave you some solutions, things that you can do right now so that you can fully enjoy your move to Côte d'Ivoire. So it's not a total don't move there. I'm gonna say yes, move to Côte d'Ivoire, pick Côte d'Ivoire as your Blaxit country, but you have to be prepared. So make sure you prepare for that. If you want to get some help with that, let me know in the comments or send me a message on Instagram as well so we can discuss your own individual situation. As always, make sure you like this video, share it with a friend, and subscribe to the channel. That way you don't miss any of my other videos. Until next time, bye.